I'm sorry.
You came and oh, there you are. You're on the full screen again. Good to meet you. Hello.
Hello. Thank you for having me, Shannon. Um, what I wanted to do is I wanted to kind of bring the perspective of uh, caregivers or parents of the patients that participate in this research, because when you find out that you have a locked-in uh, patient that you're dealing with, it throws you into a completely different perspective in your life that you've never dealt with. And what I did is I tried to do as much research as I could and find out as much as I could as fast as I could. And a lot of my training in the military and in college helped me understand a good bit of stuff that from my research that was quite extensive, but in many ways it was vague. There just hadn't been a lot of research done. So the way that I found out uh, of getting involved with Dr. Kennedy was through uh, a teacher when Eric got to go. Excuse me. When Eric got to go back to school after we got over the initial shock and caregiving training and all that, his one of his teachers had been to a seminar where Dr. Kennedy had spoken, and we had run the gamut of everything available to him, eye movement. We had teachers come to the house and try different things to get him to move, um, different muscle movements and stuff. And all that ran to an end really fast because he was completely locked in. The only thing he had was eye movement. And after a bout with the flu, he even lost that. The first thing that I did was I developed a word board for him. I took the alphabet and took the vowels out of it. Then I divided the letters into two columns of three letters each. So I would ask him line one, two, three, and four, and then column A, column B, and then we would go down the letters. And it got to where we could communicate pretty fast. And his big thing was watching movies during the day. So we did that. And then after his bout with the flu, I don't know if he lost interest um, or it just tired him out too much using the word board. But then when I found out about Dr. Kennedy's research, we set up an appointment and got together, and he gave me uh, an overview of it. And I went through and tried to find other research and everything, which I found some, but it was varied and far between and everything. So I decided to take a chance with Dr. Kennedy because that was the only research available to me that was left at the time. Um, I talked to several doctors about uh, maybe having brain surgery or something like that, and everybody was, no, that's not. It's just not possible. We're not to the point where we can correct what was the damage that was done by the stroke. So when I got with Dr. Kennedy, the further we got into the research, um, the more I understood it through a lot of my training. And I said, and while I was in the military, because I was in there for 11 years, I was in a good many research projects, and they always had a baseline. And so I asked Dr. Kennedy at the beginning of the thing, could we get an implant put in me? Because I could still talk and we could compare notes. And Dr. Kennedy said, you have no idea how much I went through to get I think it was the FDA to approve this research and these implants, and he said they will never go for an implant in a human that has no affliction to correct or anything. So, but I I know Americans especially have a short uh, attention span when it comes to something. If you don't keep them fresh on something or it's moving at a pretty fair pace, they lose interest in it. And so I wanted to have me as a baseline so that we could get the research going. And also, in what I had read, the lifespan of someone that was truly locked in was very short, and it all came down to I don't know if it was depression on the patient's part or that they became exhausted mentally, or I don't know what it was, but the lifespan was fairly short. So to me, we need to get as much research in this area as possible for these patients, because I couldn't imagine. I tried several times putting myself in Eric's place. One day I just laid in bed and I had everyone screaming at me because I wouldn't answer. And I just wanted to see what it was like to not be able to communicate with anyone and be completely dependent on everybody. And I freaked out my family. But they got over it, I think. And the other thing is the caregivers really have to be forgiving to themselves, because to me it was going into an area that I really had no knowledge of, and I had to guess what Eric was thinking, guess what he would do in this situation, um, and you make a lot of decisions. And what it came down to me, and Dr. Kennedy helped with this a lot, and a lot of nurses and other doctors did, is you gain as much knowledge as you can in the area that you're going into, because it's not just one area, it's many areas. And you make a decision with that knowledge and do the best you can. And then a lot of times you'll sit back and judge yourself. And you say, did I do the right thing? Oh, so I mean, you have to commit 100%, and you have to be very forgiving of yourself, and know that you made the right decision, the right call. Um, and I want all caregivers that have these patients, but the other side of that is look at them if you're not trying to move them forward in life and give them a better um, class of life, or to gain back what they've lost. And because just sitting there constantly wishing you could communicate with other people and control your life, just I couldn't imagine that, and I didn't want Eric to go through it. I know one time we went through a court case with the county involving a grant, and so we went to the court case, and the judge said, are you here to represent Mr. Ramsey, talking about Eric? And I said, no, I'm going to let him represent himself. And that's when he still had eye movements. And I got him to do up for yes and down for no. And I said, the only thing is, Judge, you've got to ask him everything in a yes or no situation. And I'm glad I did that, because it threw I had 3 county attorneys up against me and Eric, and they didn't know what to do when he was representing himself. And the judge was very understanding. And I kind of steered her into asking the questions that I thought needed to be asked to get him the grant approved. And in the end, we won. And you know, so you have to involve the patient as much as you can in every area. Another time, and I'm sorry if I'm kind of roaming on this, but
Yeah.
It's just situations that I went through. His stomach tube came out several times, and what it had is it had wallowed out and it was popping out even with the inflated bulb inside. And so I told the doctor in the ER, I said, make an incision where his where the stomach tube goes into there, and then sew it up and tighten it up. And he said, we've never done that before. It's not proper procedure. And I said, Doc, you give me a waiver, whatever. I said, unless you've got a better suggestion, this is the third time that it's popped out. And so he did what I suggested. He made the incision in there, took out a very small piece of tissue, and then sewed it back together tighter than it was before. And we never had that problem again. So, I mean, you can gain as much as you get. Is that what I'm trying to say? You learn as much, and eventually you know more than the doctors do about caring for the individual, or at least you should have ideas on how to help them get through the day and everything. But I think the biggest thing I want to stress to caregivers, parents, friends of these patients is you have to be forgiving to yourself, because you have to understand that they have no direction unless you help them move in one direction or the other. And then you've got to say, I did my best with the knowledge that I had. And I want to thank Dr. Kennedy for all he did for our family.
Yeah, you're a wonderful father, and he's a wonderful man. I can appreciate the effort that you've put into talking to us today. It's highly emotional, and you're clearly just such a loving person, and you did so much for your son. It's just outstanding to hear you talk.
Yes, I second those remarks. Eddie, you're a champ. It's unbelievable. For 13 years of what Eddie went through, caring for his son, took him on a cruise, take him to the playground, bring him into the lab, was it 2 or 3 times a week? And all you did for him is unbelievable. You're a great guy, Eddie. You're a great guy. And you talk about forgiving yourself. There's nothing to forgive. There's nothing to forgive. You were wonderful. Absolutely great.
You're a wonderful person and a wonderful carer. You didn't have a template. You had to do it all yourself. You had to figure it all out as you went along and be proactive and do things that other people perhaps wouldn't have even considered. And to have been able to find Phil, who's done such groundbreaking work and was able to help Eric, is extraordinary. That you both are in the same country and you were able to get to Phil is wonderful.
Yeah, and the results we got from Eric were just pushed us forward so much. Now I know it was 10 years and 3 years he didn't want to work with us and all that. That was great. But he'd worked with us at the end in year 9 and 10. And we showed that the signals were just the same ID, the same. We conditioned them just like I showed in my talk. And that's really powerful stuff, Eddie. And you're the guy who held it all together. Thank you.
Yeah. I think one of the big themes of today has been the perseverance and patience of not just the people that are living locked in, but of all the people that work with them and the carers that look after them. And as Eddie rightly said, you have to be forgiving of yourself. If you're a carer, you're not going to be able to cover all the bases. You don't know. It's a brand new experience for you just as much as it is for the person that's locked in. And all you can do is your best. And I'm hoping that conferences like this and the Locked In Syndrome Community Association, people can support each other and people feel less alone.